Right, a very good morning, the people of Westnile and those who are watching us from other parts of the country, and all those who are watching us from other countries within Africa and beyond. My name is Frederick Tamadri. You are most welcome to this show. This is the KOKOLIRIKO Live, right here on Westnile Television in Arua City. That is where we are laying all this for you, and we have a number of stories that we'll be diving into. But before we go to that, the week has been so long. The weekend has also been long with several activities, including the Youth Day celebrations, a number of meetings, a number of activities besides all those. But we'll be having all this in the segments that we'll be bringing to you. I am here not alone, but I have my colleague, journalist Faris Majid, who is here right here with me. He covered so many stories around the week, and today is the 14th of August 2023. That is where we are going to start from, and it is exactly 5 minutes to 8 a.m. We'll be moving up to 9 a.m. That's where we'll hand over to the news team, that is the Lugbarati news team, that will bring all the stories that were aired in English to Lugbara. For those who are able to listen to Lugbarati very well, that's where they will be able to enjoy the news at, here on Westnile Television. Maybe Faris, first things first, you are most welcome.
Thank you, Frederick. Good morning to our dear viewer. As already introduced, I'm called Faris Majid. It's a pleasure having you on the KOKOLIRIKO Live show once again. As Frederick said, it was a long week. It was a long week where we had a number of events, a number of activities. First of all, we had the Youth Day celebrations. This is where my disappointment comes from. But the good thing is the return of the leagues. The English Premier League is back. The Germany leagues are back. So our weekends are not going to be boring like how they have been for quite some months.
But even before you go to England, we have games that are going on in the various districts and sub-counties.
Yes.
Some districts have reached inter-sub-county games, and there are others that are still at school level. So we will be bringing all this in the wishful time, but much as we have a lot to unpack for you here, let's first dive into the issues to do with the Youth Day celebrations. In Arua City, we had this in Arua City here also, but the disappointment comes. Leaders were not there. So what does this mean to the young generation? Who is there to inspire the young people? Remember, this day was dedicated to the issues of environmental protection, the activities or the initiatives that youths can derive in order to keep the environment that is becoming like harsh, the climate changes, the weather pattern that has turned to be something harsh that does not favor now growing of crops and so on for man to live in. So we have been seeing a lot of advocacy into micro scale industries, and also the issues of irrigation that many people have been advocating for. Maybe Faris, there were a lot of things to do with the environment that were talked about during these Youth Day celebrations. Maybe how was the mood in the celebrations since leaders were not present?
So first of all, I would like to start by extending my disappointment to the leaders. You know, this is a function where we are to recognize the majority of the population. We are always talking about the majority population being the youth. But to my disappointment, on Saturday when we had the Youth Day celebrations, none of our top leaders were there. Talking about the MPs, the mayors, they were not there. And the turn-up generally was very poor. And the youths themselves, they were also not there in high numbers. I expected all the youths to be there because this is a day gazetted for us. It is to recognize us. It is a day in which we are supposed to be talking our problems. Right now, the youths are going through a lot. There's a lot that the youths are going through. And talking about the different problems, we are talking about poverty elevation. Because the youths are still the ones that are still souring in the poverty. It is still them who are very much affected by the issue of poverty. And when this day is there and we're not talking about the youths and we do not attend the events, sincerely, it really comes to my disappointment. Yes, this day was there, and it was on Saturday. Internationally, Arua City, I should say, had this day celebrated on the International Day, but we have other districts that are yet to celebrate theirs in the coming days.
I meant to understand that the Red District is celebrating theirs on the 27th of this month.
Yes.
So I don't know if the leaders are going to be there in full numbers to maybe guide the young people, because we have seen a lot of issues coming from the young people, especially issues to do with the outcry of the young people towards the issues of accommodating them in the employment sector by government. Remember, majority of the young people said they are only getting jobs from the private sector. That means government is not really doing much in nurturing the young people into the labor market.
Yes,
so what does this mean?
Just to add on what you're saying, actually the people who are there, we are encouraging the youth to get actively engaged in government programs. Talking about this, Ushino Rashid, the member of parliament,
the councillor, yes.
I'm now calling him a member of parliament because the members of parliament were not there. But I believe he represented them very well. So he was advocating for the youth to get actively involved in government programs, talking about different programs that are there. We have in Myoga, the parish development model that are there. But if you have to look, the youth are not getting actively involved in these projects. So he urged the youth to actively get engaged in these programs. He also urged the youth to get involved in politics. This is where he urged them to get involved, because he said we are the majority population. The elders are now, it's time for them to go and rest. We are the ones that have new ideas. We are the ones that have the brains. So it is us to come up with, and it is upon us now to come and get involved in this policy making. Because if you have to look, the youths are saying we have not been very much involved into some of these activities of making the policies. We have been left out. So he urged them, and to me this was very great, because if we are to address our problems, because it is us who best understand our problems. It is us to come with the solutions. So I believe out there, if the youths are out there, let them get involved in politics. It is all our mandate. There's nothing that limits us from getting involved in politics, because at the end of the day, some of the issues we are going to be addressing will affect us. And secondly, we had a number of issues actually discussed on this day. First of all, we talked about issues of climate.
Yes.
Wadrika Seno, the former member of parliament, urged the youth during this function to actively mind about the issue of climate change. He urged them to plant more trees. He was saying this because he knows the impact of climate change that is currently going on now. And it is youths can play a great role if they are to prevent some of these issues of, in relation to the climate change, because he urged them. Because, Frederick, we are talking about youths who are the majority population. Yes. And you know that some of the activities the youths can actually get involved into. If we are to move into trading centers where the youths are currently sometimes sitting idle, if we engage them into some of the activities of planting trees, if a youth who is sitting idle there is able to plant more than 10 trees, at the end of the day, how many trees are we going to plant? And what role are these trees going to play in terms of the climate change? So at the end of the day, you will find that the activities the youths will be undertaking will be of great importance to the environment. But
maybe before we go further, can we look at what the young people have been able to do in order to restore the devastating impacts of the climate change that we have now? We have been talking about the issues of rampant charcoal burning that has been the talk of the year, from last year up to this year. Maybe there have been a lot of presidential directives on burning, exportation, then maybe dealing in commercial charcoal and so on and so on. These have been coming because of the rate at which people deplete the forest cover in the region. So we have at least now the 2 forest species that we actual forests in the districts of Adjumani and I will say Yumbe, that have been sounding all over the media, especially Zoka and K, that people have been really over talking about them. Much as we have security deployed in them, but we have continued to see a lot of distractions to these forest covers. How far have the young people taken their energy into restoring the environment? These are the things that we are digesting on. And also, much as the Youth Day celebration was really not colorful, I will say, how far do you think the message that has been unpacked in order to preserve the environment has been received, and how far do you think it has been disseminated to the young people?
I think the issues that were discussed in relation to the environment through the media can reach where they're supposed to be going to. Because these issues were discussed, the media was there, they covered, and I believe those who did not attend will be able to receive this message. And still, in addition to that, these people who attended were told not to remain with the message there. They should carry on the message and take the message to their homes. So I believe the issue of environment will be addressed. But still, you're not talking about the issue of tree cutting for survival. It still is very much complex, because, Frederick, if we have to look at these issues here, if we are saying we should not cut down the trees now, what other options are we having for the society? What other options are we having for the people who have been engaged in these activities? Still, it goes back to the government projects now, talking about the parish development model, talking about the Myoga. So the masses, I think, could actually get involved into these projects. Maybe at the end of the day, we'll be finding other alternative means. But if we are to talk about them living these practices without other means, we will just be talking things that maybe do not even reach the people, because they will ask for alternative means. You are telling me to stop cutting the trees now. How am I going to survive? How am I going to be able to feed my family? Maybe at the end of the day, they will be not having options.
Yes, we have seen so many advocacies towards planting and growing trees. Has this really achieved much? Why can't we look at other alternatives of maybe getting wood, instead of focusing on so much into wood fuel, instead of focusing so much into the firewood that we have been talking about and other issues? Why can't we look at the issues of biomass, issues of maybe I've seen so many initiatives from some of the people who are trying to recycle. I've seen people collecting the plastics and also making something similar to charcoal out of them. But this has been helping a lot in also reducing the number of trees that we use for maybe cooking or other activities, fire related, that people really so much need a lot of this kind of wood fuel to be used into. Also, if we can venture into the issues of electricity, using electricity as an alternative source of energy for cooking and also industrial use, this is very paramount. We have seen a lot of schools so much using logs. These logs are got not only from maybe their plantations, some of them are got from the forests. But we have seen the issues of land wrangles that has affected the efforts of planting trees, because most people now look at selling the land. They are not really practicing much agriculture. This means if we need all this, the initiative of rural electrification and also government's initiative of connecting all service provision areas to stable electricity, if this is fast track, then we will see a lot in the reduction of the use of wood fuel into cooking, into industrial use, into other means. This will reduce some of this.
Yes, Frederick, just to...
But also, if you look at the issues of rural electrification, has this really moved much?
Just to add on what you're saying about rural using electricity as an alternative mean according to the wood fuel. This is my view. Why don't you lower the electricity costs first of all? Frederick, if you have to look, why most people do not use electricity as an alternative means is because the costs are still very much high.
True.
Because now, an ordinary person who is very much used to using fuel will know, if I'm to use 2,000, it will buy for me charcoal to cook food. But if I'm to use electricity, because people will calculate now, if I'm to use 10,000 per week for cooking, and then charcoal, if I'm to use electricity, will go up to 50,000, they will have to balance. They will look where they will fit in, where the packets can fit in. By all means, you will be seeing people maybe deviating from using charcoal and heading to electricity. And still, it goes back to mindset change. There's a lot that we need to do. We need to educate the public about using electricity. Most people still do not have the knowledge about using electricity as an alternative mean to the wood fuel. They still, you know, our tradition, we are still believing traditionally. We still believe we have to cook using fuel, we have to cook using charcoal. But if we are to, I
remember from that, there was someone who was telling me that if you cook using electricity, the food will not, the taste of the food will not be,
but I don't know.
not be all that good. So we need to change the mindset of the people, and also one of these days we'll be bringing you the spokesperson for WENRECO, who will be able to break down some of these costs, because people have raised so many concerns about the cost of electricity, also the cost of connectivity We have seen complaints, even including members of parliament from this region, who have said the cost of even acquiring a pole is very high. So what does this mean to the local person who has been there seriously venturing into maybe firewood, cooking, using the tray stones that we always know, and how will this person really adapt to electricity? If the member of parliament is also complaining that she has been really overcharged, so that means a lot. We need, we'll bring Wenreko one of these days to come and clarify on some of these things and give hope to the people about how they should be able to use electricity effectively in the issues of maybe conserving the environment. But also, much as this is there, but we need also to venture into other alternatives that are very cheap. Use of maybe charcoal stoves to minimize the cost of using wood logs. If schools are able to construct some of these kind of stoves, they will reduce maybe the amount of the wood logs that they are using. Much as we are all aware that some schools at least have really planned for the future. They have planted so much into their gardens, the trees and so on. I've seen some schools using their eucalyptus. That is very good. It is so much encouraging, but we expected all the schools to have that. And in this modern era, we don't expect much use of logs to do cooking in schools, because it is very tedious and it takes a lot of time compared to electricity. So maybe we leave that somehow a bit. Let's dive into other issues that happened within the region. We saw a lot to do with the issues of road chokes during this rain season. Roads have not been rehabilitated so much. There are some roads, especially in the Ive division, that have been like a death trap because of some of the gullies formed on the roads, especially if you are heading to our Ive division headquarters around the other trading center after you leave the tarmac. What is that name? If you can remember. Crab, yes, crab market.
Crab.
That is around Smash. From if you're heading that way, around the bakery, you have gullies, so many of them, and that is one of the transit routes to Lia, which connects to Aruara in DRC Congo. So if we can really prioritize maybe rehabilitating our roads, that is very, very important. Maybe Faris, you have been also looking at the issues of roads, connectivity, and also the community access roads and security roads within the town. What have you seen in relation to some of these things?
You were talking about the poor status of the roads in Ive. But similarly, the roads in Central Division are also very, very much, they are still in story status if you have to look at the newly constructed roads. To me, these roads have been constructed, but actually not me alone, actually the public all is concerned about these roads because they are saying these roads have been cut, but not rehabilitated. They are in poor status. The roads have been abandoned.
Cutting them.
Yes, cutting them. That's what they are saying. It is the term they have used. And these roads are in miserable status because if you have to look at the roads, people are now getting back to blocking these roads here. Frederick, I can assure you. Because if you look at the newly constructed, I want to concentrate on the newly constructed roads. These are roads that have just been opened to ease access. These roads, people are now blocking them back because the government has abandoned them. But I was sharing with the town clerk and the mayor for Central Division. They actually came out and said the issue is the budget, that is the budget allocation. The money that was allocated for them for the roads was not enough. Because the whole of Central Region, that's what you are telling me, it was only allocated 50 million. But if you look at 50 million, how much money are you going to be using on taking care of these roads here? How much money are you going to pay these tractors you're hiring? Because these tractors have to be hired, they have to be fueled. How much money are you going to be putting in this equipment to see that the roads are in a good shape? But still, it goes back. Frederick, when it rains, trust me, most of these roads become inaccessible. You cannot use them. They become muddy. First of all, they hamper your movements. It will become difficult for you to move on these roads here. So at the end of the day, maybe you will see roads becoming a problem to people. And you see accidents on these roads here. And now, on the nature of our people, so you know our people, our youths are very reckless. They love riding very speedy on these roads. At times, you see them actually getting problems also on these roads because of their nature. So I would like to appeal to the government through the central government, let them increase at least on the budget allocation for these divisions, maybe, so that at the end of the day we expect good services in the form of roads.
Okay, that was the wrap-up of what was happening in West Nile. We will be bringing more in case we have more of the stories trickling down into the studios. So let's move to the national focus. Forum for Democratic Change, the FDC party that has been the main opposition party that for over the years has been challenging the ruling government, the National Resistance Movement, has really got a lot of criticisms, and the saga of the divisions around the party leadership has continued, maybe apart from the issues to do with withdrawing the leader of opposition kind of leadership from Matthias. We have seen so many coming back. We have seen elders criticizing message over the decision to release some of the information that they said was really meant for the party inside there. So maybe Faris,
yes,
if elders are saying FDC is not doing well because of message and the other colleagues, what do you think this will take the party into?
First of all, for a party that has always enjoyed the majority opposition numbers in parliament, this issue really perturbs me a lot, because we really expected FDC to do much. Mm-hmm. We know in the last elections, in the last general elections, where we did see NUP outweighing FDC in terms of numbers. So
yes,
it was really shocking.
Elections,
it was really shocking to me, first of all. And secondly, it is very sad because these issues are now happening at a time where you expect the party to be restructuring, to bounce back maybe in the next elections to come. But when you see issues like this, really it becomes sad, because we expected FDC to be doing much, Frederick, trust me. Because this is a party that has been there. Mm-hmm. But now the issues surrounding FDC, really, it is really complex. It is very broad. We expect FDC elders to be giving in advice, maybe guidance to the members. But we have seen also the FDC Youth League coming out and criticizing a number of issues. Now we are seeing the elders. It really becomes difficult for a party which we expect to be restructuring to bounce back in the next elections. Does
this saga really give you a worry about the future of this party in the 2026 elections that will be coming soon?
Definitely, it worries me a lot. It should not also worry me alone. It should worry you too, and it should worry the members also. True. Because these issues surrounding will make the public lose the trust that they had in the party. For the people who had the trust in the party over the years, people have always subscribed to FDC, the lovers, the followers, the people who believe in FDC will never want to see these sagas surrounding. Others lose credibility and decide to join the ruling government because of such issues. Because the people whom they thought they had trusted, whom they believed in, whom they were looking at as idols, to the youths who were looking at those people as idols, trust me, somebody will at the end of the day say, after all, this is a party I believed in. It's also not very much as I thought. So I can also decide to join the ruling government. So at the end of the day, you will see the party losing the credibility it had in the people.
Okay.
How is this going to affect the party? It is going to affect the party's comeback. Trust me, what happened in 2021 may be worse in 2026 if FDC is not able to restructure in the remaining days to the presidential elections. That's what I can make of the sagas surrounding FDC at the moment.
Remember, these kind of factions coming are not only in the FDC. We saw recently also the National Unity Platform having also this kind of divergent opinions coming from some of the members of the party, including the party president and the chairman. They had all the same kind of saga, but they were able to contain this. This was not only the first one or the second one, but we also saw this started from the National Resistance Movement, where we saw at some point the first son coming up to say, I want to contest. Those those tweets from him really made vibrations around also the National Resistance Movement party members, but they were able to all contain this. But for FDC, much as the National Executive Committee sat down for quite a while to do harmonization on some of these issues, we have continued to see people singling some of the party leadership about the mess that has continued to move viral across the country. So what does this mean at the end, during the 2026 elections? This is where we're getting to. And so what does this mean to a young person who is looking up to a party like that, like FDC, that has been there, the main opposition? Also, we saw DP coming up saying, no, we don't want Norbert Mao, and Norbert Mao coming back that I'm still your leader. So what are this meaning? Does it mean most of the political parties in Uganda do not really have the plan to sustain the parties? Because I'm meant to understand that all these sagas are surrounded around the issues to do with money.
Frederick, all these sagas surrounding the opposition political parties play to the advantage of the ruling government. Because the ruling government will take advantage of all these issues that are surrounding the opposition parties in Uganda. How are these going to be affecting? You are disorganized because these fights start within yourselves. So I'll be fighting you, Frederick. If all of us are from FDC, if we disagree, trust me, I will not want to support you. And then the other person consolidates the support. And they continue, and that is when we shall be seeing NRM winning the elections solidly. They will be able to beat the other opposition parties without any compromise. So I think these issues surrounding opposition parties really needs to be sorted out before 2026. If not, we shall be seeing, if they are to really put up the fight in wanting to see change, then we expect them to be doing what is expected of them. First of all, the unit within the parties, in-house. We expect them to be having in-house unity before these issues come out. If these issues keep on coming out like this, the public loses trust. First of all, the public will lose trust, and people will lose trust in the election process. Somebody will not want to waste the votes. That is when we shall be seeing a reduction in the number of votes maybe to come. So that all these issues will play to the advantage of the ruling government, because for them they are there, they are strategizing, they are doing a lot. Currently they are even restructuring already. They are doing, what they are saying is 2026. They're not minding of anything. Right now all they are doing is 2026. As other opposition parties are still looking of the next presidents to bring, for them they already know what they are to do. So I think all these sagas play to the advantage of the ruling government.
Okay, dear viewer, you are still watching Westnile Television, the KOKOLIRIKO live show, which is here on Westnile Television and the headquarters of Arua City. So if you have any comments that you want to really share with us in relation to whatever we are discussing, we have discussed so much into the issues of youth. We are now on the issues surrounding the Forum for Democratic Change, which is now ranked the third leading opposition, the second leading opposition party in the country. That is after the National Unity Platform that came in the recently concluded elections as the first opposition party leading with the number of those elected to be in the parliament and also in some of the local governments. So maybe if we look at some of these issues surrounding the opposition political parties, don't you think it is high time we came back and say we should have one political party which is opposing the national, maybe the ruling party, so that we have really maybe a combined voice to challenge the ruling government, if all that is really agreed? Don't you think that is really something we should be advocating for, other than now having so many parties? Even you will see in 2026 so many people coming with also political parties, because we have seen factions. Most of these parties that I imagine are stemming from national resistance movement.
Frederick, still me concerning the issue of bringing a joint candidate to compete against the ruling government, I think it will not work. Because me, I'm a believer of charity begins at home. Whereby now we are having fights at home. I don't think if the fights will be able, if we are to, when we move out with the fights, because these fights are beginning from the parties themselves. Now if they move out, how possible are they going to be accepting to sit down? We have seen IPOD trying to do this, but they have always failed. So I think this issue of bringing a joint candidate, to me, in my own view, will never work. As far as I'm concerned, I believe it will not work, because if we are currently fighting from our homesteads, now we are fighting our brothers within ourselves. Now, how are we going to be uniting with that person out there? Because me, I'm a believer of charity begins at home, so I don't think if these opposition parties can be able to have one candidate. Yes, because now the issue is, if this issue is supposed to be resolved, now the question that will arise is, who will be able to represent us now? That will be the question that will come next. That is where what fights of interest will come in, conflict of interest. Because some people will be able to say, I want so and so, others will say, I want so and so. At the end of the day, you will see these issues, people are still coming out to disagree. So I don't think if that issue of bringing a joint candidate to compete against the ruling government will be able to, in this country. I don't think if it will be able. That is what I think.
Unfortunately, the constitution did not limit the number of political parties to contest. So if any of the factions is able to register another party, the good of them, and if they are able to also rally so many of their voters from some of the parties behind them, then they will be able to succeed. So these are some of the issues around the opposition political parties. Maybe what is driving people to create so many of these political parties? These are some of the things that we need to understand. First, don't you think it is the love for money? Because I much believe in that. Even if I saw some people contesting as independents and so on. You see somebody coming here in town and looks for the journalists that I want to address press conference and doesn't go for a rally and goes back and will tell the country that I've been for campaigns in Arua. This has happened over the years. So don't you think really people just are contesting or maybe creating some of these political parties to earn for themselves?
To a greater extent, this is to a greater extent, people now want to take politics as a way of making money. We have seen this in the parliamentary elections, where somebody can be able to waste millions and millions of money expecting more. So it has become an investment kind of thing. Because one time I was sharing with a politician and told me the easiest way to make money in this country today is politics. So it has become a business venture for some people. So I think the love of money to a great extent contributes to this. But we have other factors. People sometimes come to politics just because they want to be known. They come for their other reasons, other selfish reasons sometimes also. So they want to be known, and we have seen it working for them. Some of them, after losing in the elections, we have seen them being appointed to positions of responsibility. So I think the love for money to a greater extent is contributing to the kind of politics that we are having right now. First of all, our politics has been monetarized a lot. If you are poor, trust me, for the chances for you to make it through in this country's politics today will become very difficult for you because people want to eat. You get? So somebody will say, I'm giving you my vote because I ate your money. I'm not giving you my vote because you did not give me. And it is the past leaders who also contributed to this, because once they went to the parliament, sometimes they also forgot the voters. They went and forgot the voters, and they never delivered the services which were expected out of them. So I think to a great extent, this is also contributing to the mess we are seeing in the kind of politics we are having in this country today.
Okay, so if you want to sponsor our show, you should be able to really dial the number 0765282281. That is one of the contacts that you'll be able to use to reach us and maybe have your goods or your services advertised through the television in this show. Then you'll be able to get a wider coverage of people who will be in need of your services. Much as we have talked much around FDC, we've seen also the issues of financing elections is really very, very rampant, and it is affecting so much into the quality of leaders that we're electing. Let's zero in this maybe to the LC1 elections. We have seen a number of LC1s, especially those who are able to afford during this kind of campaigns. They are able to mobilize voters to come, and maybe they give them something before people line up and so on and so on. These are some of the things that we've seen so much. But if we can move away from this, the other week we hosted the civil society that has been spearheading the issues to do with the electoral reforms. This has been one of the issues that featured so much, the issues of using money in maybe rallying people behind us and also convincing people. Using money has been so much discussed. But also really to conclude with the issues of FDC, what is best for FDC now? Because we have seen lawyers moving away from disagreeing with the party chairperson, especially Arias Lukwago, and also we also saw the likes of Wadukasiano moving away from FDC up to the national, the Alliance Global for National
Transformation. Okay,
Alliance
so
for National Transformation. This party there, which has come just during the recent elections, many of the FDC elites went to this party, and also others joined the National Unity Platform. What does this leave FDC at? Because if Arias Lukwago and the man behind opposing even most of the speakers in the parliament is opting to go out, so what does this mean to FDC? Does it mean we are going to leave it in the hands of Amuriat and the Besigye?
So I think FDC needs to go back to the drawing boards. They need to go back and understand the root cause of the conflicts they're having right now. Secondly, they need to make a proper understanding of what is happening at the party. Because I believe these people know what is happening, but then they need to go back to the drawing boards with all the members. They need to have an involvement of all the members. Remember when they had their meeting for, you saw the disorganization which was there at the party headquarters.
Yes, so we saw tweets about some of the leaders saying, hey, I've been attacked, I've been done this.
We saw people being blocked, so that is not called for. I think what they need to do is they need to go back to the drawing boards, call spade, die. They need to have all the members involved in the decision making. So with that, we shall be able to see maybe them coming back. Then secondly, they need to start moving from the top to the grassroots level. They need to make an understanding. Let them come to the downer people, the people who are down here. These are the voters who have always believed in the party. Let them come to the people and seek for their guidance, because some of these people may be having knowledge, may be having what maybe they can do to change the mess that is currently on FDC. So I think that is what I can make of the mess that is currently at the FDC, and what the little they can do maybe to change some of the issues affecting them.
Okay, all these political parties during the recent elections that were conducted in 2021, we saw so many of these political parties, especially the oppositions, launching their parties at every county, districts, and so on. So we expect Forum for Democratic Change to use these kind of offices to reach their people, to really apologize, especially for those mess that is coming out, instead of always calling for a few people in the maybe central executive committees, the national executive committees, there's another one also, special elders executive committees, and so on. This may not help much, because the people in the grassroots have it all in their brains that really people ate money, people were conflicting over money, people had disagreements, and this may really result into disintegration of this party. So there's need for this, for Forum for Democratic Change leadership at national level to go regional to really do this. I've seen so much done by National Resistance Movement, especially when the tweets came really viral, and we saw committees coming up to the grassroots, maybe uniting people and telling them, no, there's nothing like so and so is contesting, or let's still rally behind our main man, the party president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni Kaguta. So this will have an impact. Let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing about the issues to do with the World Bank still sticking to its decision of saying if Uganda doesn't amend the anti-gay law, they are not really going to give us more loans. This is where the CSOs have come up and said, no, government needs to amend some of the budget that has been approved. So let's take a break and we'll come back shortly.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes Highest Bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Right, welcome back from that commercial break. We have been discussing so much into the issues to do with the Youth Day celebrations, and also we talked about the FDC saga, what this leaves the FDC party for the 2026 elections and what is the future of this party. Now we are coming back to discuss about the issues of the CSOs, the civil society organizations that are advocating for government to really look into the issues of reducing unnecessary expenditures in order to cope with the ruling by the World Bank. Their communication recently that stated that World Bank will not really lend money for Uganda as a country because of the issues to do with the anti-gay law that the president of Uganda in May ascended to. So this is something that has been there for discussions, but we have seen CSOs coming back to say really we need to cut some of these expenditures, especially they are looking at the issues of money being spent so much into administration, especially the public service. Maybe Faris, we have the cows, we have maybe the civil servants who are being enhanced salaries. We have so many enhancements for doctors, for what, and so on. These CSOs are saying these expenditures, maybe the enhancements are too much and they may not really help the country to develop so much, but we should rather focus on some of the priority areas of service delivery other than really increasing salary for individuals to consume. If we really need to cope up with, do away with World Bank's loan and really stand as a country to develop internally.
Frederick, we are still talking about the issues of this money that we're supposed to be using funding the budget, but now that brings me to the question, can't we really do without the money from the World Bank? Because yesterday I was going through something online, it was a comparison of the money these people are supposed to give us compared to the money that is being streamed in the form of corruption. Can't we really do without this money? So it really still comes back to me, if we are able to fight corruption as a country, maybe at the end of the day we shall be able to secure that money and put it in proper use, maybe in funding the budget. But still, it comes back to the issue of making amendments in the budget. You are talking about salaries, but we have these government officials sometimes who have unexpected expenditures in form of travel allowances. We see these people traveling out, but sometimes I wonder what they are going out for. And then you see a lot of money that is being wasted here. You see the committees moving out. But still it comes back to the question, can't we really do without these things, the unnecessary travels? If Tanzania did it, we saw them stopping some of the unnecessary travels. Can't we also do it as a country, maybe at the end of the day, to spare the taxpayers' money? Still that comes back to the questions. Really, this calling for amendments, I think they have a point. They might have researched about it. Maybe they know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the unnecessary expenditures. Some of the expenditures in the budget may not be called for. They might be over. So we expect them to be reducing so that at the end of the day, maybe we should also be seeing our budget sufficiently being funded here. And still it comes back. Locally, can't we raise this money? It comes back to URA. Is URA doing enough maybe to raise money out locally? Is it doing enough to generate money that is supposed to fund this budget here? Still, it goes back to them to see that the relationship between them and the taxpayers is not that far-fetched. Because currently, in this country, in this region, if you have to look, the relationship between URA and the taxpayers, to me, is still very much far-fetched. People do not want to see URA. People do not want to see the officials. People do not want to see their cars. So it still goes back to URA as an entity that is meant to collect taxes out of these people to see that they bridge the gap. And then maybe at the end of the day, people can be able to pay these taxes voluntarily. So I think that is one thing we can do maybe to see that the budget is properly catered for.
Okay. Remember, the civil society organizations that we have in this country are mostly taking on the performance of government and also advising government on what to do in terms of this kind of maybe issues that are arising that affect the whole country. So we really have been receiving as a country close to 6.4 trillion from World Bank in terms of different projects that have been financed through loans. Those are the loans that we have been really getting from World Bank, approximately 6.4 trillion, that is annually. So what does this leave us at? And also, what about the projects? What about the projects? What is the fate of those projects? Much as this might not really have an immediate impact, because we really still cannot know whether this is going to really do much or it may not affect much. We saw recently also the DDEG, not really DDEG, but the discretional equalization grants that were coming have been scrapped off also in some of the sub-counties. That has been something that the sub-counties have been crying for. But we also saw a lot to do with some of the unnecessary expenditures being cut off. So can we invest much into the fight against corruption and also venture into cementing the relationship between the tax collectors and those who are paying the taxes, the taxpayers? If this is done, then I believe strongly this country can really move much, because we really got independence sometimes back. So we should not really so much rely on to World Bank, because World Bank is giving loan. That is a loan, but if we can do something within our means to elevate the country, that is very, very much into helping the situation within the country. Maybe Faris, yes. Let's just say something little about this, and then we go into the international stories around the globe.
Just to add on what we have been discussing concerning the issue of World Bank stand. So Frederick, still it goes back to me. I always ask myself questions. Can't we really do without these people's funds? Can't we fund our budget locally? Can't we fund our economy locally through the money that is being taken from the taxpayers? Still, it really goes back to that question, because I meant to understand, can't we really do without these monies if we are to be able to fund the economy? Because, Frederick, I really want to believe that we can do it, because if all the taxpayers ensure that they pay their taxes, they did not run away from tax enforcement officers, they did not run away from paying the taxes, maybe at the end of the day we shall be able to still fund our economy sufficient. That is what I can make, the little I can make out of
Okay, remember, since the president ascended to this law, we saw the UN human rights offices in Uganda being closed by the start of this month, and they announced that they regret that human rights issues and also the activists have continued to see really that space of maybe practicing their activism being shrinked, and it perturbs them. But also I don't think this is so much really needed. We have the laws around, and also maybe, I don't know if this may affect us international, but I believe currently Uganda is doing well in terms of maintaining peace and in terms of also development, because that's why I believe most of the countries are really trying to send their refugees this side. much as even if they're not sending them, but we accommodate whoever comes, even if illegally or what, we accommodate most of them here in this country. So maybe away from the issues of CSOs calling for amendments in the national budget, let's move to the international stories. We have seen Democratic Republic of Congo accusing Uganda, especially the Eastern DRC from Ituri province. The officials led by the administrator and the head of manufacturers at the Ituri province saying there is some alcohol which is local manufactured in Arua district that is killing the drunkards in DRC. So what does this mean? We saw last year the City 5 gin story that went viral up to some of the international medias, where this killed a lot of people in Arua city. This was manufactured here in Arua city, but now the shift has gone to Arua district, where these factories have been illegally established. The gins are believed to be manufactured in Arua, and if you look at that gin critical, you will see that the location is in Kuluva, which is just in next after the end of the boundaries between Arua district and the city, maybe Faris. Yes. What do you make of this? If people are really manufacturing this not really standardized kind of drinks, what does it leave the health of the people? What does it leave the local economic development that we're advocating for? What does this leave the relationship between DRC and Uganda at?
First of all, it puts the drunkards at risk, because a drunkard will never, if you're a drunkard, you will tell. If the time for taking alcohol comes, you will not want to miss it. So it puts the drunkards at risk. This is my own view. Mm. But still, it goes back to the authorities that are supposed to monitor and check these products that are being manufactured in the market of high standards. Because these people are employed to do this. If talking about the bodies, there's UNBS that is supposed to certify these products before them getting to the market. Mm-hmm. So does it mean that there are some who are sleeping on duty maybe before checking these things, and these products are sneaking themselves into the market? So it really bothers me a lot, because we are supposed to be weighing these products before they get into the market, because at the end of the day, UNBS is supposed to ensure that the lives of the people are safe by first of all checking the products and ensuring the products are of high quality. Mm-hmm. So if the products are sneaking themselves into the market without them being certified, really it puts the masses on risk. And talking about the masses, these are the drunkards who are the consumers of these products here. And somebody who takes alcohol can really know how these these products of good importance to them, they love them, they know them, they cannot do without them, some of them. So, and these products that are sneaking themselves into the market, some of them are very cheap. Mm-hmm. And you know, when something is cheap, it increases on the number of consumers. So, and the number of consumers who will be affected by these products here, you can now imagine how many people are going to be affected by these products here, because these are cheap products that sneak into the markets and people will want to taste. And that time I was sharing with the drunkard. He was telling me he has actually tested all the alcohols in this region, all the locally manufactured alcohols in this. So it means if a new product is supposed to emerge on the market, he will have to first have a test. And so these products are really very dangerous to the lives of the people, even if not now, maybe at the end of the day, in some years to come, they will have an effect on you, because these products are manufactured by people sometimes whom I believe are not qualified. So it goes back to the UNBS, the body that is supposed to ensure that these products manufactured in this country are up to date. So it is upon them to ensure that they monitor all the factories before the products sneak themselves into the market. That is what I can make of the issue.
Maybe I will request the producer to relate this. These products were really put before the leadership of Uganda. There was a meeting, a cross-border security meeting that was held in Marasa district, and these are some of the things. It is written there, for export only 40 volts. So it is 100 mils. So those are the things that we have seen. So these were handed over to the Uganda Revenue Authority officials led by the RDC of Marasa district. That is critical. If you can look at it, that is the gene. So if you can really locate as security where this is done, and also take appropriate action, like the previous one of the City 5 gene that killed a lot of people in the region, and so many really remained blind. These are some of the things that have been put forth during that security meeting, and also we really advocate that much as the advocacy for establishing the UNBS offices in Arua has been there for quite a while, we really expected this body to come here, because there are so many people who are venturing into cottage industries. There are so many people who are venturing into manufacturing of items, and if you look at that kind of label, it looks so much local. It is not of international.
And I don't know how the drinkers actually look at the labeling. First of all, look at the branding. Look at what is on the bottle.
Yes.
There are dogs, and how do you drink something that has dogs? So it really goes back
very
to the
dangerous. Yes.
Of some of the things that they are called to consume. That's the other time what Kasano was telling these people to drink responsibly, and drink responsibly does not only stop that. You should maybe have some considerations. You should also mind of what you drink. So it really goes back to the drunkards also upon themselves to take it that what they drink is sometimes checked and verified. So it really goes back to them, because at the end of the day, it is their lives that will be affected by these drinks here.
Yes, for those who are implementing the projects, so for those who are monitoring, for those who are really dealing in supervision and monitoring of manufactured items in this country, our role as journalists is to solve for you what is happening where, and it is you to choose either to enforce or not. So we are not really, as journalists, going to arrest anyone, but it is your role to do that. So this is where we're bringing the whole discussion to a close. My name is Frederick Dramadri. I've been here with Faris Majid, one of the journalists in Westnile television here, who has been so much into also doing stories about so many issues of developmental nature and those that are of political, social and other issues surrounding the region. So up next we'll be having the news in Lubarati. Stay tuned with Fetters.